I'd call him out too.
But you didn't. But he did. How many times during the cross exam was I trying to talk to him and he interrupted me and you didn't call him out? Because it's cross exam. You let it happen, right?
You were interrupting Albee. You were very aggressive, Sean. Albee was aggressive. Right. You both were aggressive.
Right.
Are you saying that you were less aggressive than Albee, Sean?
Yeah, we're not debating you right now, Donnie. We're not debating you right now.
You don't know how to answer yes or no questions.
I tried to address a grievance with you.
Sean, you're done. You're done. You've had your opportunity. We're going on 3.5 hours. He's out of here.
All right, thank you for watching this video, and today we're going to interact with a debate that happened on Standing for Truth with Donnie Brudinski, as a debate between Albee and Sean Griiffin from Kingdom and Context. This debate was a fun debate to watch. Obviously, as you can expect, it was a fiery debate, where both debaters got after each other, and the claws and teeth came out quite a number of times. Right, Donnie had to step in a number of times to sort of calm it down in order to get the debate back on track. But yeah, I thought the debate was fun to watch. And so what we're going to do today in this little short review, if you will, is that we're going to interact with a certain portion of the debate, which is cross-examination. And we're going to interact with the end, when the debate ended, right? There was a bit of controversy at the end of the debate, and where it did not end pleasantly, but we are going to get into that. And so, I don't know if you guys watched Sean Griiffin before, Albee. Both of these guys are very sharp in their particular area of thought. Obviously, they disagree tremendously. Sean Griiffin rejects the idea of the Trinity. And he says that he affirms Jesus as being God in the sense that he was created, being the first created in the first being, being the first being created. Dang, I can't trying to get that out, right? He adamantly disagrees that Jesus is the Almighty God, right? And so, and obviously this comes out in this debate. And Albee being a Trinitarian, obviously believes that Jesus is the Almighty God, right? The triune God of Scripture, one person of the triunity of God, right? And so he obviously believes that Jesus existed prior to the creation of the world in the real sense of that meaning, right? And so this was once again a fun debate to watch. I thought it was very I thought the interaction was fun. Albee and Sean, Albee can get going. Sean can get going, and so it was great to see these guys interact and get through the debate, with both of these guys being able to get going at times. And so with that said, let's get into this portion of the debate that I want to interact with. In this portion of the debate, they're about an hour and almost 40 minutes into the debate. This is cross-examination, obviously. Let me scoot over a little bit. This is cross-examination, and they are currently dealing with the topic at hand. Was Jesus the first created being? And so we are going to jump into this. So let's see what they have to say.
Again, God made a promise. Now, let me ask you this question. Who's the creator of time, the Father or the Son?
I've put forward in this debate tonight that God created the sun, moon, and stars and all of creation. And that's what's the sky clock, if you will, that we exist under. So if that's what you're calling time, then the Father created time. Okay,
so the Father created time. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, we're going to read 16 to 18, where it says, "For by him all things were created, whether visible or invisible." Who's the by him?
Which verse are you quoting from right now?
1 Corinthians 15 verse, Colossians chapter 1 verse 15 or 16. Oh. I apologize.
Okay.
On my head.
So the passage that I talked about in my opening?
Can you answer the question?
Verse 16, "For by him all things are created that are in heaven and on earth." Mm-hmm. This is the Greek preposition "die" that I talked about, which is also translated as "for the sake of" or "on the account of."
Mm-hmm. Okay, beautiful.
So the him is speaking of Jesus, and on account of him, all things in heaven and earth are created. Yeah.
Okay. Now, would you say that that's all of creation, period?
Sure.
Okay. Now, it's all of creation. Was it the Son who created with the Father, or the Father creating because of the Son?
I don't know if you're listening, bro. The Father created all things. The Son's a faithful witness.
Okay. Now let me ask you this question. In Colossians chapter 1, when it says in verse 17, he is before all things, who is the he who's before all of creation?
In verse 17?
Yeah.
Yeah, the before concept is not chronological time statement. It's talking about authority.
Okay. In verse 16, it says that for by him all things were created that are in heaven.
Albee.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. That are in heaven and that are on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or principalities or powers, all things were created through him and for him. So
I use this verse in my opening.
All things, all of creation.
Yeah, as I said in my opening, the Son existed with the Father before all things were created.
Okay, so before all creation, correct? Is time
I said it.
Is time a byproduct? Is time a byproduct of creation?
The way you're describing time, how are you defining time here? Are you doing a Greek metaphysics, or are you doing?
No, it's not about Greek metaphysics. It's about simple science. That time, space, and place are three properties that have to simultaneously exist with one another.
So
since time is the measurement of place in space and place. So now, once
you're
again,
using Greek metaphysics,
when it says that he is before all things, and in him, who's the in him that all things consist?
Which verse are you reading from?
17.
Do you want to put this on screen? He's before all things, and in him all things that consist. Yeah, we've already discussed that this passage is speaking about the Son, verse 15 through 18, speaking about the Son.
Okay. Now, does the Son share in the same nature as the Father, or does he have a different nature?
Are you using the word nature as according to Hebrews 1:3 with the hypostasis, which means his character and behavior, or are you using the Greek metaphysics definition of nature, speaking of the homoousios?
Yeah, I'm talking about the homoousios.
Yeah, you are.
And Hebrews 1:3 is not even talking about what you just said. Go ahead.
Like I already said earlier, that all things came forth from the substance of the Father, were then fashioned, adorned, and created, and given purpose and meaning. And so, therefore, this is Psalm 33:6 and Genesis 1. And so, I believe that the Son came forth from the Father's substance at some point before Genesis 1:1.
Okay. Now, if it was some point, that would assume time. If time is a byproduct of creation, that all things came into being through the substance of the Father, was the
all
Son,
things is referring to the creation.
Was the Son brought forward first, or creation brought forward first?
I'm going to repeat myself again. So before Genesis 1:1, the Son was brought forth from the Father, but it just doesn't give us any kind of definitive time frame.
Okay. Is there a time frame? Is time is a byproduct of
it doesn't matter.
creation? No, it does matter. So
No,
you have no answer. Thank you very much.
Explain to me how it matters.
Of course I will, because the Father is timeless. Therefore, the Son also must be timeless, even according to your own paradigm. The reason why that is
no,
because hold on 1 second. The Son.
Don't put words in my mouth.
Hold on 1 second. The Son was brought.
Ask me a question and don't put words in my mouth.
You asked me the question, so I'm going to answer it. The Son was brought forward. I'm asking you, what came first, creation or the Son? You said the Son, but you don't know when. But wait a minute. If the Father's a timeless being, and he brought forward the Son, and you're telling me the Son did not have part in creation, did the Son just put his feet up and chill and relax?
I told you what it was earlier, all throughout this debate.
All right, so this is the thing, and they go back and forth with this for quite some time, right? So what I think Albee is attempting to demonstrate here is that Sean's understanding of when Jesus came into quote unquote creation is inconsistent with the paradigm of how creation operates. And this is why Albee is bringing up the concept of time, right? When we think about time and the measurement of time, time is a created concept, right? And so if Jesus came into being at a particular time, the idea of time being a part of creation is, you would have to say that time was created prior to Jesus, right? That's what you would have to say. But that doesn't fit the biblical paradigm, because God himself is timeless. I hope you guys understand where Albee is going with this. Because once again, Sean Griiffin is attempting to say that, and he said in his opening statement, that Jesus, and he said it in this particular portion of the cross-examination as well, that Jesus came into existence at a particular time. Well, that doesn't flow, according to Albee, that doesn't flow because time is a created concept. The only way you could make that demonstration true, Sean Griffin's position true, is if you want to say time was created prior to Jesus, right? But that doesn't make sense because God is eternal. God is timeless. And so this is what Albee attempted to demonstrate. And so it was a bit difficult because they kept cutting each other off, right? They kept cutting each other off. And that's a part of debates, right? You're going to get people to cut each other off. You're going to get people to try to rebuff an immediate rebuff of what that person is saying. And so that's expected, right? But I think that's what Albee attempted to demonstrate here. And if both parties didn't interrupt each other and we were allowed to hear both parties' argument in a clear, concise way in this particular part, I think this does show that Jesus has to be eternal. Obviously, I think this does show that Jesus has to be eternal because if we're saying that Jesus came into creation a particular time, then time is not even a concept when Jesus came into creation, right? Everything prior to Jesus, or everything according to Sean, everything prior, not according to him, but the consistency of Sean. In order for Sean to be consistent, he would have to demonstrate time being a concept prior to Jesus coming into existence, right? According to Sean's position, that's what Sean would have to demonstrate. And if he's not willing to demonstrate the concept of time being something that is relevant before Jesus came into existence, then his position falls flat, right? Because once again, time is a created concept, and time didn't become a thing. A time didn't become a thing. History didn't become a thing until creation, until the earth was created. So everything that was created for him and by him, Jesus, right, came into being, right, came into creation, right. And that's what I think Albee is attempting to demonstrate here. And so this does, in my opinion, cause issues with Sean's position. And so Sean would have to refute that. He would have to deal with the particular concept of time being something defined prior to Jesus' creation, if Sean wants to be consistent. That's what he would have to show. All right, so in this portion of the debate, this is at the end of the debate from last night. I bring this into the conversation because sometimes it's incredibly difficult to moderate. It seemed to me that Sean was bothered. I don't know if he was just, I don't know what was going on, but it just seemed like he was bothered the whole night. Even the cross-examination that we just did, that we just interacted with, it seemed like Sean Griiffin was just bothered, like he was irritated. And I didn't really understand why he was irritated. Perhaps it was something behind the scenes, because I think they did actually bring up something behind the scenes, a private chat or something like that. But it seemed like Sean was really, really frustrated, really, really irritated. And so you see a little bit of this frustration come out now in this particular portion of the end of the debate, during the end of the Q&A. And so let's check it out, and then we'll comment on it as it plays out.
Yeah, because that way, Sean, you can get the last word. So, Albee, why don't we start?
I don't care about the last word, guys.
Well, whoever wants to go ahead.
Sean, all right, man, you're being a little childish, but that's fine. All right, so here's the thing. Excellent question.
See, Donnie, this is exactly what I was talking about in the private chat. Please read the private chat.
Bro, it's getting embarrassing, man.
You've made an issue out of this, Donnie. I didn't bring this up publicly.
Sean,
from interlocutor to moderator, I tried to talk to you privately, and you made an issue out of this publicly at the end of the debate. And now even Albee's trying to jump on that momentum, and you're allowing him to just act like a child.
Sean, we can, because you are. Sean, let me just make
it. It's my turn. No, it's my turn. I allowed Sean to respond. Now it's my turn. I was calling you out, Sean, for consistently interrupting Albee when he was giving a rebuttal, and you would say, "Don't rebut, answer the question." There's no reason why either of you can't give a rebuttal. Sean, you can give a rebuttal. Albee, you can give a rebuttal. There's no rule that says, hey, during your time to respond, you can't rebut. Where is that rule, Sean? Right. Show me that rule.
I didn't say that. That's not
yes,
what
you
I
did.
that's
Sean,
not what I
you
said
kept
to you.
interrupting Albee when he was responding and saying, don't rebut, answer the question. That's what I was calling
even
you out
Albee
on.
can read the statement I put in the private chat. Even he can put the statement. Even he can read it.
Chat. You're the one who mentioned it.
It wasn't about the rebuttal. It was about the way he was answering the question, and you weren't moderating. That's what it was about.
Let him answer the question however he wants. You guys are big boys. You guys are adults. You get the opportunity, Sean, to rebut Albee. I did not see either of you answering a question inappropriately.
So
you guys are passionate. You guys have energy.
Instead of just addressing this in the private chat, you made it public by announcing it publicly, and now Albee's emboldened to act like he's acting.
No, you're wrong.
I don't think that this is a fairly moderated debate at all.
All right, so this is the thing. This is where it gets difficult, right? As a debate moderator myself, hosting a lot of debates, I feel for Donnie, and I feel for Donnie, right? Because Donnie is in a position where he holds a lot of positions. Albee holds too, right? Especially concerning this debate topic. So yeah, it can come off to someone who doesn't hold to the position that Donnie and Albee have. It can be like, oh my goodness, the debater might be biased, right? And so I get that accusation as well, right? I get that accusation of people being biased, of me being biased towards different debate opponents, right? And this is the difficult part right here. As a moderator, it's extremely hard to contain that biasness because, yeah, if you ask Donnie, yeah, he's a Trinitarian, right? And so it's extremely difficult to restrain the biases. Now, I don't know all the details that went behind in the live chat. Apparently there was something said, and apparently Sean thought Donnie brought that to the forefront, and Donnie goes on to defend himself and says, no, I did not. And so it created an uncomfortable situation, right? As a debate moderator, I am trying to ensure that the debates that happen are done in a fashion to where it's fair and clean, right? And obviously that is Donnie's desire as well, right? Donnie's desire as well is to ensure that the debates are done in a very clean, professional fashion. And so it's important for the debaters to understand that there is this attempt on the moderator side to try to keep the debate as clean as possible. Now, the hard part comes in is when do you step in? And how do you moderate? Like, and what technique do you use? Because the last thing you want to do is come off as biased, right? And so if a debate moderator continues to accuse one opponent only of cutting in and butting in, then yeah, you probably can get accused of being biased. But if you're doing it on both sides, which I think Donnie did in this particular debate, I think he did a great job at moderating. I didn't really see or notice anything that really said, oh man, Donnie is being unfair, right? I really do believe that Donnie did a fantastic job at moderating this debate. And so I don't really see any issue here, the way Donnie did things. It just seems as though like Sean was really bothered the whole debate, even in the cross-examination. He seemed like he was very frustrated. He was, jittery, moving around, adjusting himself. Just his facial expression seemed to be very irritated. And once again, I'm not sure if this is something that's going on in the background before the debate, but it just came off as that. And I think sort of his frustration sort of spilled over. Now, is Sean's justified his frustration? I don't know. Once again, I don't know all the details behind the scene, but it certainly suggests that this is sort of a building up. I don't know if in past history they've gotten after each other or whatever, but this is sort of thing building up and frustration sort of spilled over, right? At the very least, we can get that point, right, of the frustration. And so I just believe that even if we disagree, we should be able to have a working relationship, right? There are a lot of debaters that come on the Gospel Truth who I adamantly disagree, who I view as flaming heretics, right? But there should be this working relationship to be able to get along, to make sure the conversations are still happening. From what I hear, from what I've seen actually in this debate, Donnie kicked Sean Griiffin off the stream. It says that I don't know if Sean's going to be able to come back. And so this is one of the consequences of certain behaviors, right? Acting a certain way, that you can't possibly get removed and not be asked to come back or invited back on a platform. And it's unjust. It's unfortunate, right? Because I think I like discussing things with Sean. I like Sean debating. I like him debating good opponents. And so this is unfortunate. But this is one of those things that happen. It's one of those things that happen if we don't have our emotions in check, if we don't have our professionalism in check, then, you know, we have some of these fallouts. As you guys know, I had several fallouts. One memorable fallout was between when the Chris Fisher and the Matt Slick debate, right? That was one of the fallouts that I had. And as you guys know, this is not me saying that Chris will never come on the Gospel Preach again, but it did cause me to have to make a video after the debate. I made a video interacting with some of the stuff that was said in the debate. But it does say that, you know, I don't know when Chris will be back invited, because I felt that was like one of the worst debates that I had on the Gospel Truth, not from a subject matter concept, but from a decorum, a respectful concept, right? From respectful, the angle of respecting the platform, right? So you guys know about that. So all in all, I felt that this debate went very well, and it's unfortunate that it ended in the way that it ended, because I felt that the debate went very well. I felt that both parties interacted and argued their positions in a very satisfying manner, and I really enjoyed the debate. So sometimes it does go this way, where the debate goes off the rails at the end and the emotions spill out, and it's unfortunate that the emotions had to spill out on the live stream instead of behind the scenes or through text or phone calls. So with that said, hey, if anyone debates on the Gospel Truth, right, make sure you give me your complaints off screen, right? Don't do that on screen, because it's disrespect to the platform. So don't do that. Any grievances, any complaints, make sure we handle that off screen, and let's behave like professional adults when we're on the stream together. All right. With all that said, I pray that this video was a blessing to you, and if you have yet to do so, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll see more content from the Gospel Truth. All right, take care. God bless.